Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Home Dad Chat. I am one of your hosts, Brock Lush, and with me tonight, of course, I've got Danny. How you doing tonight, Danny?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Good, man. Glad to hear it. And tonight we're going to be talking cars. I'm really excited about it, and not the movie Cars at all. We're going to be talking about American Steel and lots of horsepower, and maybe that favorite car of yours, or that dream car, or maybe your first car that you have some great memories about. So we'll be talking about all that, and we have a really special guest. We've got Marcus Cope, and Marcus is a part of the National At Home Dad closed group, and we put out a call to see if anybody wanted to talk about cars, and he accepted the offer to come on the show. So we're really happy to have him on. How are you doing today, Marcus?
Doing fantastic. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome, definitely. And Danny, I'm going to let you kind of take this, man. You guys have been talking, and I feel like you're at the starting line of all this, so you get to rev the engines and take off first.
Nice. I see what you did there. Although you did say Cars for a minute there, not the movie. And I went, oh, can we talk about that though? Because I've only seen that 700 times.
That's what everybody tuned in for.
That's right.
Only if we're going to be talking from click and clack. That's the only way I'm going to talk about car talk.
No. So, Marcus, I hope we don't build you up too much here, because I just want to say, when Marcus and I talked originally, he was one of several dads that I talked to, and just really more than anything else, rather than just like looking for someone that's got a lot of technical knowledge, or someone that has owned like all the big cars, or I had a car shop before I became a dad or anything like that, and I did talk to some dads like that, and we've got stories of those guys coming up. But realistically, just wanted somebody that had enthusiasm, and we had you, and we had another dad lined up. He unfortunately got sick, and that is what it is, especially in this job. There's not a lot of us that don't get sick at least once a year. And honestly, canceling a podcast at 8:00 at night is probably easier than anything else you had to do during the day. So if you had to cancel one thing, when you can't cancel the kids or the food or the laundry or anything else, so that's it. So Marcus, I wanted to just first ask you a little bit about your kids being a stay-at-home dad, how long you've been a stay-at-home dad, and how old your kids are, and all those pertinent details.
Okay. I have been a stay-at-home dad now just nicely 3 years. I left my career in April of 18 to be a stay-at-home parent to my three stepchildren, and twin 11-year-olds, boy and a girl, who are both affected with autism, then an 8-year-old boy who's neurotypical. And so, I've been doing that about 3 years now. So it's been quite a switch for me, but it's been very gratifying.
Yeah.
Nice. What were you doing before that?
I was a respiratory therapist. I had been in that field since '94.
Wow.
When I left the hospital that I worked for, I was the education coordinator for that hospital's respiratory therapy department.
Very cool. And so this is much easier, right? This is like nothing now. It's like, hey, I can do this all day, right?
Oh, Danny's got jokes.
Danny does have jokes.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, no, it's and the hysterical thing is I've never been like a great kid person, particularly younger kids. And when I came on the scene with these guys, the youngest, who's now 8, he was like 4 at the time. So it's been a big learning curve for me. It's been a real blessing. It was one of those things where, when it became apparent to my wife and I that this is what we were going to do, I still couldn't believe this can't be a good idea. Why do I feel compelled that this is what I'm supposed to be doing? But it's worked out really well.
Yeah. Yeah, generally once we hit our footing or get our footing and feet underneath us and start just get your pace, then it gets a little bit easier, especially if the kids are a little bit older. But anytime with twins, I mean, every dad that I've talked to that has twins, I've got nothing to compare to. But then also too, that you said one was neurotypical, but the other two with autism. That's also just even more to add to your plate. I want to say first, kudos for picking up that heavy load and making, honestly, I always call it the sacrifice that we do for our family,
Definitely.
So
I appreciate that.
Sure, of course. Now we're going to talk cars, and I know you've got a long history of passion about cars, and I'd like to talk first about your where you first picked it up and who you picked it up from, and then I want to specifically get you to mention your subscription.
Yeah. What is up with, go for, let's
I'd like to do the whole thing. So if you would.
Okay. Well, I think my interest in cars was spurred on by my father. I'm an only child. I was the only one that he had to share this with. He was kind of a Depression era child. Was a little bit older, but he had a few cool cars. The one that I remember was when he was back when he was serving during Korea. He had an Austin Healey that he absolutely loved. But, we were living out in the country, and I think a lot out of necessity, a lot of the wrenching on the mechanical things around the house, whether it was, the cars or the tractor or whatever, he was doing that. And I got to be a part of it and pick up from it. So.
Mm-hmm. Were you the hold the flashlight kid? Is that where you were? Because that's where most of us were.
I was the flashlight jockey, and I remember to this day, asking him like, can you see, am I doing it right? And he would always just say, if you can see what I'm doing, I can see what I'm doing.
That's a good response. That's a really good response. Yeah, so, we mentioned the subscription. Talk a little bit about that. How that all kind of came about, and how old you were.
Gosh, let's see. I started subscribing to Car and Driver magazine, and the first issue I got was in 1985, and I was born at the end of 72. So I was like 11 or 12 years old. And how I got started with that was, I remember when my mom, we lived out in the country, but when we went to town, we'd stop at the library. And of course, the library had all their books, but they also had a big magazine rack. And an issue of Car and Driver magazine caught my attention with the picture on the cover. And for whatever reason, even at 11 or 12 years old, I had an appreciation for the writing in it. I didn't like Road and Track. I didn't like Motor Trend. So Motor Trend was like a second to Car and Driver, but I ended up taking my allowance money and using it to subscribe to Car and Driver. And
wow.
That was the highlight of my month was getting the new issue of Car and Driver. First issue I got. What was on the cover?
That's cool. What was the first issue?
The first issue was when the Toyota MR2.
Ooh, yeah. Actually, there's a dealership here in Cincinnati that I've bought my last two Toyotas from, and they have had an MR2 in their showroom for the past 5 years. It's beautiful to go in there and look at.
Nice. Yeah, it was when the MR2 was first released, and all the hullabaloo was the closest competitor at the time for the Pontiac Fiero.
Yep.
Oh man, the Fiero. Wow. Yeah,
which really, in retrospect, to compare a Fiero and an MR2, physical similarities are there, but as far as the dynamics,
the Fiero. Man, I remember there was a guy in high school, I think it was driving one, and everyone was like, oh, what's that? What's that? Because at the time, we didn't have any angles. None of the cars had angles of any kind. They were just squares, or they were the old circles, but no triangle shapes. So he was amazing.
Yeah. The Fiero was a really cool looking car, but it was such a parts bin special.
Yeah. I know a guy in my hometown who actually used the frame of a Fiero to build a kit car for a Lamborghini.
I believe that. I
would love to see that.
There was actually back in the mid 80s, there was this little cottage industry car company called Zimmer.
Yeah.
Do you remember Zimmer?
Yeah, I know that name.
And the car that they built was this God modified Fiero. If you look at pictures of it, I mean, the greenhouse and the sides and everything are all Fiero, but it's got this incredibly stretched nose. But yeah, it didn't last long. I don't think there was much of a market for it.
So what was your first car that you owned?
I had a bright blue 1978 Chevy Chevette.
Nice.
Chevette, nice.
Yeah. And I remember, nice background.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead about your first car.
But and I remember I bought it with my own money. It was $500. And I bought it knowing that it had a transmission problem. It had a 3-speed automatic, and it had this thing where if you took off in drive, it would rev out like crazy in first gear. It would skip second completely. But if you started out in 2, it would do the 1-2 shift.
Nice.
And then you bumped it up to drive and it would do the 2-3 shift.
Of course.
And so I bought the thing and immediately needed to have the transmission rebuilt on it, which I remember back then, I think I paid less than $300 to have the transmission rebuilt, which it really dates me when you think about now, like a replacement transmission's like $4,000.
Yeah. I switched my background to my first car, at least one close to it. The one I had was actually a little more orange. But it was 10 years old when I bought it in 1986, and it's a 1976 Toyota Celica GT. And it was, to me, the greatest thing on wheels. I mean, just absolutely nothing else I want to drive ever, forever. Please let me have this. And my mom actually had to go to her credit union and borrow, and it was a total of $750 for that car. And I had a good friend that raced a lot. Him and his father raced in SCCA, Sports Car Club of America, and they just do a lot of road racing and stuff. And I drove with him all the time. And he drove his everyday car was a Volkswagen GTI.
Nice.
Their race car, this will get to you, Brock, was a Rabbit, right? With a roll cage in it. It was bright orange, and it was bored out for 9-to-1 compression.
Oh my goodness.
And the thing was just, he called me and he goes, hey, and this was like, you have to be in the house to get a call. There were no cell phones. All right. He goes, hey, I want you to go outside and stand in the driveway. I'm coming to get you. And I'm like, okay, sure, man, whatever. Cause he'd pick me up all the time before I had a car. And I hear this airplane coming down the road. And I lived on this very long road out in the middle of nowhere. We had about 70 acres of old cow, pasture that was beside us. And he comes around that far, far corner he's probably a mile away. And I hear him go, man, what in the world? And he just comes roaring up. He pulls up, comes around a little turnaround on the drive and pulls up and he goes, get in, man. My mom comes running out. And she goes, whoa. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just going to go with Neil and we're going to go drive around. It's fine. We'll be okay. And she's like, is this your car? And she's looking at him like, I'll kill you. If you kill my son, I'll kill you. And you're all dead. And he's like, yeah, this is actually my dad and I's car. We use it on the track. It's got the roll bar. It's actually much safer than regular cars. My mom was having none of it, but she was fine. She's like, she loved me. She goes, you go ahead and do it. And she said, go ahead and, you go, you do what you do. So I go and the door doesn't open because they're welded shut. And I had to go in through the window. And she just, you can see her brain just exploding. And I'm like, go, man, go. No, my mom is not going to have it. Go. We got to go now. But she's like, yeah, if you had not gone, I'd have stopped you. I'm like, you went in through the window. I was going to just go crazy. But anyway, mine was the 76 Celica GT. And it was amazing. And I burnt the clutch out in under 3 weeks. It was the original clutch, and I thought I was a race driver. No, and I had to put a truck clutch in it. After I burned out the second one, we put a truck clutch in it so that we hopefully wouldn't have that problem, and it lasted till the car died. So, but speaking of rabbits, Brock.
Yeah, well, speaking of burning clutches out, the stories I could tell you. So my very first car was a '79 Volkswagen Rabbit. This one that I have in the picture here is the exact color of mine. It didn't have the flared out wheel wells in it. I had to learn how to drive stick, and that was an interesting thing. But I burnt the clutch out in it. Actually, when I put the new clutch in, I burnt reverse out and ended up having to basically open up the door and put my foot out and back out of parking spaces if I had to. So,
winning.
Yeah, and then I mean, I paid $300 for this car, so I was gonna do whatever I had to keep it running until I could get something different. But I ended up the ignition went out on it, and my uncles got together and we did a little hot wiring and put in some toggle switches, and so it was like flip toggle switches, turn the key, it turned on. That worked for a while, and then those burn out, and then it turned into put the car in neutral, put the emergency brake on, pop the hood, use a screwdriver, solenoid, start that bad boy up. And that's how I did it for a while as well. But the car met its demise one night when I was out screwing around with some buddies, and we TP'd the house of one of the guys that helps out with the youth group I was a part of. And after we TP'd the house and dropped a pumpkin for the air horn in his semi truck at 2:00 in the morning, that just went off as we ran away, and he chased us in the truck. I jumped a railroad track, Dukes of Hazzard style.
Oh dear.
Landed it, got home, and all four wheels just went. It was a straight Herbie type of deal. And I had just basically broke the entire frame. And yeah, that was the end of that rabbit. But it was a glorious car.
I was going to say, it went out in a blaze of glory.
It did.
A glorious ending, really. Yeah.
A story that will never die.
All right. So first cars are great. And I think we all probably have ones. I mean, generally that first car is going to stay in your heart a little bit, I think, forever. But I didn't have to go through this, fortunately. But there is kind of a stereotype of the young man who has his hot rod and he has to get married and he's got to sell that car or get a different car. He's got to step up to something else. I didn't have that specifically because my car was a truck, and all I did was I actually upgraded to a king cab. And I never had a hot rod anyway, so I was good. Going from like a 92 Ford F-250 to I think it was late 90 or early 2000 maybe, Chevy Silverado king cab, and it was beautiful and it was a Cadillac and I loved it. So I actually upgraded. Do you guys ever have? Marcus, start with you first. Did you have anything you had to give up when you got married for your kids?
For my kids, yeah. I guess you could say there were two. I had a 2004 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, and I have three other kids from my first marriage. And at that time, I had twin boys, and they were just nicely, I think, about 3. But I had that Wrangler, and back then the Wrangler Unlimited, that was before it was like the big 4-door model that we see now. It was a regular Jeep Wrangler with just a stretched wheelbase. And I loved that thing. But one day I was driving home from work, and it just, for some reason, dawned on me that, here I am. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I've got all these people I'm responsible to. And I'm driving around in something with doors that are about 2 inches thick and nothing between my head and the pavement other than like a fabric Band-Aid. And I ended up trading that off for a nice, safe 2005 Honda Accord. That was my daddy car, and had all the airbags and all that. Later on, over the years, I've had a couple of Pontiac Firebirds, and probably about, probably 5 years ago or so, I got rid of the one that I had. I ended up selling it because I needed the money to take care of some medical bills for my daughter.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So what year were the Pontiac Firebirds?
The first one I had was a 94, and it was that god awful 3.4 V6 5-speed. And it was bright red, and it had T-tops, and I think I bought that in 95, so I mean, I was all of like maybe 23 years old. I thought I was the man, and I had always loved Firebirds, and it was a miserable car to drive. The cowl was really high, the visibility was horrible, and the shifter was really nice, but it had the clutch was awful.
Yeah.
In the entire time I owned it, I only owned it like 9 months, respectfully, but the entire time I owned it, I was never able to really drive it smoothly because of that clutch.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, when I got another one, I did go ahead and I got the automatic.
Nice.
The nature of the car.
Well, speaking about that style of car, I would have to say that as far as like movie cars go, like the Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit,
Yeah.
by far, hands down, one of my favorite movie cars of all time to be
Yeah.
able to see. And I used to go to the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Festival when I lived up in northern Indiana, and every once in a while they would bring in different movie cars, and so it was fun to get to see stuff like that. But I did get to see the Bandit car in person one time. That was really cool.
Yeah. That's iconic.
I'll throw myself under the bus. You know what got me hooked on the Pontiac Firebird? Night Rider.
No, Knight Rider. Yeah, that'll do it.
I won't lie. It was Night Rider. And after that, I was a Firebird guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I really liked as a kid was, oh yeah, Kit was amazing. Definitely.
Not only is it an amazing car, but also it's your best friend. Can't run. Yeah, I love it. It's stay with you forever, Kit. Anyway, go ahead.
And it was and ended up being Mr. Feeney. That's the crazy part is Mr. Feeney. You had Baywatch and Mr. Feeney all in the same. It was Boy Meets World meets Baywatch. What the heck?
Nice.
But no, I mean, so like another old movie that I really enjoyed was Corvette Summer when I was a kid, where they steal like. So this is a movie that not many people remember. Danny's giving me that look like
I know the name, but I don't remember the movie. And
basically this kid in high school, he builds this amazing cherry red Corvette, and basically someone steals it and then like parts it out, and then they got to go like chase it down or something like that. And it's a very interesting movie from, I believe it's from like the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to definitely check it out. It's a good one, and it gets overlooked all the time. So, but I remember watching that when I was in high school quite a bit. So it's a good movie.
So you brought that up, and I was thinking American Graffiti. That was the one that was coming to my mind just from the scenes of that one, and that came out in 70. Hey, hang on, I'll look it up. 73.
That's got all my favorite cars.
Yeah, that was just I was way too young to see that movie when I saw it for sure, but it was amazing. It was amazing. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I grew up around car shows, man. It was like in the summertime, like that was what the weekends entailed, was going to different places where there were car shows. It was usually like me and my dad and my brother, and then I get like my uncles and my grandfathers would come with me, and they tell stories about, oh yeah, I owned that car or that car. And like I went to the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Festival with my great uncle one time, and we drove up in his gosh, what was that? A 68 Malibu, I believe it was. And it was awesome to get a drive up in that. And then we just walked around, and he was like, your great grandpa owned that car and that one. And he just basically leased cars. Like he would just keep leasing all the time. And that was his way of getting a new car every time. And I was like, it was amazing, the laundry list of cars that he had. And I was just like, this is so cool.
That's awesome.
Well, talking about daily drivers then, because the cars we drive like on a regular basis are very important to us. Now, I personally am a minivan guy. I just got rid of my minivan, got an upgrade. Brock, you shake your head all you want. I love my minivan. I will stand by it. I would go.
You have more kids than me, so you have to have a minivan.
But I mean, even I don't know how many I had when we got. I think I had 3 at the time. But yeah, but still, even if I had 2, I think I would still stick with it. It's really, really versatile. So yeah.
Well, you were talking about cars when you got married.
Mm-hmm.
So I owned an 88 Royale, an Oldsmobile, and it was an awesome car, bench seats, loved it. The name of it was Goldie. All my cars had names names, which is really funny. But so Goldie was its name. It ended up dying, and when I got married, my sister had a 1990 Geo Metro with like super low mileage on it, and I needed a car bad because mine died. I needed something really quickly. And she was like, I don't need it. And like, she gave it to me. And
nice.
That's what I basically drove around until our first kid came around. So, 7 years or so, 7 years was what it was. And I ended up selling it. Like I had to reinforce the floorboards. I had to do some reinforcement on the front part of the chassis. It actually needed a whole bar welded underneath it to like help it out. In the end, I had someone give me $1,000 for the car because it was still solid, even though all that was there, and it still had low miles. Like it had just over 100,000 miles when I sold it in like 2012, I think, or something like that. So
nice.
For a 19 and a half, just over 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah, you're doing well.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
It treated me well, and it got like 35 miles to the gallon. So it was doing better than most cars.
you got that going for you. So,
Oh, I'm always about that.
All
but you're
about efficiency.
but you're not about the minivan.
Not about the minivan. So I do have a Prius that I've used for like Uber driving and stuff like that. And we just wanted something that was economy. And we had up until just a few weeks ago a Toyota RAV4, but we actually upgraded to a 2021 Toyota Highlander XLE. And man,
Nice.
it's such a nice car, and it's got so much room. It's got third row seating. So, and we only have 2 kids, so it's perfect. They got captain seats, and it's roomy, and it had like 20 miles when I rolled it off the lot, which was ridiculous.
Wow.
I've never had a car like that before.
Yeah, me either. That's cool.
So-
Congratulations.
Brock, do you know what had a third row seat before the Highlander did?
The Oldsmobile Bonneville.
I was thinking the minivan, but
Okay.
like
That's
every
I only bring
like
that
every
up.
minivan,
Well,
right? Like all
yeah,
of
well, I
them.
only bring that up. I only bring that up because my good buddy, actually, his daily driver is an 81 Pontiac Bonneville station wagon.
Nice.
And it actually was in the new Wonder Woman movie that just came out. So they were looking for cars for that age. And so he drove to Washington, D.C. and had the car in the movie. So it's kind of fun. Like there's a couple scenes where we're like, there's his car.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I brush with fame.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, he's been on a reality show with it too. So and he's a stay-at-home dad. So actually, for Home Dad Con, if you come to Home Dad Con, he's going to be presenting on road tripping with your kids. And he has a teardrop trailer that he built. That's just like kind of the painted, sort of the same color as the car. So you got that like matching of trailer and car. But he's planning on bringing it down to the convention so that when he does his talk, it'll be something where you can actually go outside and see his whole like setup for going on road trips with his family.
Cool.
That's cool.
I'm a little
Yeah.
jealous. I don't know that I want a teardrop trailer, but I mean, because too many kids, it would just be there's not enough a trailer there. But that's really awesome. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Marcus? What's your daily?
My daily is a 2010 Volkswagen Routan minivan.
Nice.
Yeah.
All the winning.
And a lot of people aren't real familiar with it. It's actually, there's very little Volkswagen to it. They didn't build it for a long time. It only ran from 09 to 14. And all it is really is a gussied up Chrysler Town and Country. Volkswagen didn't have anything to market in the van segment at that time. And Chrysler had some extra plant capacity. And so Volkswagen contracted with Chrysler to build the Routan, and literally all the mechanicals, it's all Chrysler.
Wow.
Changes to the nose, trim changes on the inside, but through and through, it's all Chrysler for good and bad. When people ask me about it and I explain it to them, I'm like, well, it's like a Dodge Grand Caravan in drag.
I will say I went and just by memory, which is always bad for me, but I went by memory and looked it up. I think after we spoke the first time, and I thought, well, it was a Volkswagen Routan, right? Yeah. So I pull it up and I just spell it from memory. I don't know. So just so that we're, this is a visual thing. Sorry for everybody that's just listening at home and doesn't have the video up, but I'm going to put this one up as my background for just a second. If it comes up, watch it. Not. It's not. Of course it's not. Now I look like a doofus. Great. But anyway, so I put rattan, Rattan, which is of course a type of like wicker furniture, right? And it literally has a little rattan Volkswagen, like the original bus thing. And I'm like,
yeah.
huh. Well, cool. I know. I mean, who made that? Who went out and made like little rattan Volkswagens? All right, cool. But I eventually found the right one, Routan, I believe it was. But it does look exactly like it. But like you said, there's just small little changes, especially to the nose. I think is the most obvious to me. But yeah, I could barely tell the difference between that and our old Caravan.
I think it's interesting that you see vans like that nowadays, like the Rattan and the Volkswagen buses, and even like you see it in with like the transit vans and stuff that are newer, where people are actually turning them into like the vehicle that they take and like just completely change the interior on, like, so it's livable. So they've got like showers and beds and, like cooking space. And it's, they travel the country in those. I find it interesting. Like it's kind of like the tiny house sort of side to what people are doing with those kind of vans nowadays.
Mhm.
Yeah, the van life thing is super, super big right now. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for vans. So, I've actually kind of watched the whole van life movement kind of grow over the last few years. And now it's like a very trendy thing,
Yeah.
to have your converted van and go park somewhere scenic and take photos and, just be fabulous.
All the cool kids are doing it, so you're too old to do it now. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm feeling that, actually. I'm feeling that. It's just like, you whippersnappers.
Right. Youngsters. But I actually have another van. It's a 95 Ford E150. So it's a full size van.
The Econo line? Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. And it's
does it have the swivel captain's chairs?
No, afraid not.
Oh, man.
But it's not the classic white creeper van. It's got women don't run when they see it driving down the street.
Free candy sign on the side.
Right.
Yeah.
Free candy. I've heard all the jokes.
Yeah.
But it's got windows and everything. And I ended up gutting it from the front passenger seats back and converted it to a camper. And my wife and I took up to New York a few years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I've got a big soft spot for vans. I'm a dork.
That's cool. No, I mean, like, well, my family owned an Econo line when I was a kid.
Nice.
And like I said, it had the swivel captain's chairs, and then it had a bench in the back, and the bench actually folded down into like a queen size bed. So it was just super nice. We never ended up using it for that sort of like thing, other than it was kind of funny. We came back from like a Pacers game when I was younger, and I remember all of us kids basically like putting it down like a bed and just like laying on falling asleep while the dads were up in the front talking the entire time. So it had its uses, which was nice.
You could fit a cooler between the front seats.
Oh yeah,
you put a cooler,
all kinds
just
of
hot dogs and Cokes, I swear.
Yeah.
There's so much room in them.
Just pop.
Pop.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Pop. Soda.
Exactly.
Soda.
It's Cokes and Coke in Georgia, y'all.
So the other thing with cars that I really like is the different shows that are out there nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many, especially now on like just all the like streaming stuff. So Danny and I were talking about the fact we're like, the first one that most of us probably got into or saw was Pimp My Ride when that came out back in the day. Exhibit. Yeah. And all the crazy stuff that he would pull off on, surprising people. But aside from that, which was quite the wild show, there's some just really awesome ones out there where they're just showing like restoration of different vehicles. So I was telling him, like, I really like the show Rust to Riches, which is on Netflix. And basically it's where they take a car that's not worth a lot, they fix it up, and then they trade it up for something else. And they keep trading up until they get like a car that will get them six figures at the end. And so it's a really neat series where they go after, like, in the first season, they go after a like concept Ford that there's only one of. And it's an interesting journey to watch how they come about, like, getting it and that kind of thing. And then you have something as far crazy as the Rust Valley restorers up out of, I think they're out of Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
I think Canada.
And this dude's got so many cars and he can't stop buying them. Like, he's just addicted to buying cars, but he does some really awesome restorations along the way too, which is pretty neat.
And he really loves it, which is that's what I like about it is he's business wise. I mean, his like team and all like, no, you can't buy anymore. Don't buy anymore. What are you doing buying a car? And he's like, no, I'm going to buy 3 of these. And it's just, but he's just so passionate. He loves it so much. He just wants that car and he needs it in. And he's got this just like valley full of old cars, and they'll drive like their wrecker truck down in there and like pull one out, and I've got to move the Bonneville to get to this. And I'm like, wow, I don't even remember that's there. Then they're just breathtaking when he's done with them. So
the episode that I find the funniest is the one where the cliff where all the cars are sitting, there's like this huge high cliff, and you can see the trees and you can see the roots coming through. And they're like, we've got to do something about that cliff, because if it comes down, it's going to crush like all these cars. And so they end up climbing up there and basically like start leveling trees out so that it basically doesn't take the whole cliff down on top of You're just like, this is insane. Like, you have all this weird space for stuff and all these cars everywhere. So I mean, he's at one point, he's got like these storage units and he's like, oh yeah, like there's part of the car in there and there's part of the car over there, I think. And if we dig through here, we might find another. It's like, wow, like your mind is one crazy Rolodex.
Yeah. And he keeps track of it.
But that's car guys. But that's car guys, right?
Yeah.
I'm all for Gas Monkey Garage. Just telling you.
Yeah. Representing.
Gotta say, you don't know how much money they had to pay me to put a sign this big on me. Just saying. And for those that are just listening to the podcast, I'm just showing my shirt, but I'm fat, so it looks huge. That's the joke. You got it. Okay. No visual needed. But anyway.
Oh my goodness.
So I really was from the very beginning wanted to talk about, when we first came up with the idea of geeking out, was to talk about our dream cars. Like one or two. I came in with just one, but Brock came in with two, and I'm like, oh, I got to up my game here, because he changed from cars to trucks. So that was, I'm like, oh, I do love, it's a different thing for me between like that dream car wouldn't be a truck. It would be my dream truck. It's a different, like, you have a love of vans. I have a love of trucks, and just because of the utility of it all. So Brock and I have already talked about ours, and Brock is popping his photo up already. But Marcus, what is your dream car? If you had, and it's just for you, it does there, the stipulation is not for the family, unless that would be your dream car. And what would be like that one thing? Price doesn't matter. Time frame doesn't matter. What would it be, do you think, that you would have if you could have anything?
And you set the bar so high, and my response is going to be just so low. It comes back to my fascination with the Firebirds. I have always thought that the third generation Firebirds, best looking thing ever. The ones that ran from 82 to 90. And particularly the ones like 82, 83, before they kind of started adding extra stuff.
Yeah.
Cladding and stuff like that. So, if I could have somewhere between like an 82 and an 84 Trans Am, the body style of the 82s, it was just so clean. I thought they were gorgeous, but the powertrains were crap. The hottest thing you could get was I think it was like a fuel injected 305, and it only came with an automatic, and it gave you a rip roaring like 165 horsepower. The engines didn't start getting interesting in those until around 84, 85, where they started making some real power, but definitely early 80s Trans Am.
Nice.
I like it.
Nice.
I like it a lot. That sounds awesome. That's a car that I definitely saw around a lot when I was a kid. So
they're so disco.
Hey, it's all good. So my picture here, I've got a 1954 Chevy Stepside. I've always just loved the Chevy Stepside. I've always thought it's just a beautiful design of a car or truck. And it has that sort of car front to it in a way too, of like just the old, like almost like a Studebaker style of nose to it in a way. But just the lines on it and the way that it just sort of like, it's just, I don't know. It's elegant, and also shows that it's got a little bit of just something hiding underneath the hood that you might not expect. So, and I'm always a sucker for white wall tires. So I thought that was the one thing. And like we were talking about the movie Cars, like that was the one thing in the movie Cars I really loved, that like he ended up getting white wall tires at like the end of it, just because of like being out there at Radiator Springs. So I was just like, yeah, man, that's cool.
That's definitely cool. Yeah, and it's definitely a style too that you just, I mean, as soon as you see one, it just changes everything about, even for, Lightning McQueen, but also any vehicle that has them. It's just classy.
Oh yeah.
It's just classy. Just looks good.
That's the one thing when I'm watching car shows, my wife and I'll be like, all right, are they going to put white walls on it? That car really needs white walls.
Yeah, they do. Now for me, since you showed your truck, and again, I didn't come in with a truck because that wasn't my thought, but as soon as you went, we're going to show trucks, because I have a truck. I would take a 46-ish Power Wagon, Dodge Power Wagon, in almost any drivable shape. The one that I've got a picture of course, is off the internet, and it's like beautiful and refurbished and beautiful color and just all that. I wouldn't need it. It could be painted rust. I don't mind.
They're a tank, man. They're awesome.
Yeah, and I just love the utility of it. Just the sheer beefy. Well, I want to go do this thing, whatever it is. I need to pull my house off the foundation. Okay, let me hook my truck up.
Right.
Just get anywhere, do anything. The one that's pictured, I think, is a 4-door, and I'm like, wow. So we could put like almost everybody in there and put someone in the back, and we're fine. Not a car that I would practically drive now with all the kids and what have you. But if it were just me, this would probably be my one if I were like living preferably in the woods or the mountains or something where I was out and had a little bit of territory to run over. So,
well, there's the show Mountain Men.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that or not, but there's a guy who he chases cougars out of different like farmers' territories, and that's what he drives is a Dodge Power Wagon, and that thing he can take at pretty much anywhere. And I mean, honestly, like those things are pretty close to indestructible in a lot of ways, other than the fact that like their parts are a little hard to come by. So, but yeah, I mean. That's pretty much the truck that won the war for, I feel like in a lot of ways for World War II. So like, yeah, that's a gorgeous truck. Good pick on that one.
And you, sir, now have I know what it is.
So this car is by far like the car when everybody's like, what's your dream car? What's the one car that you would buy if you had the opportunity? For me, it would be this 57 Chevy Bel Air. In this color, which I didn't think I'd find, which is the metallic blue. It's just a gorgeous. This one's been you can tell this one's been redone from being like the factory colors, that kind of thing. But it's gorgeous, and it's that car. You're just like you think about American Graffiti. Like this is a car from American Graffiti, or Grease. That kind of stuff. So I love the show. I love the movie Grease. So Grease Lightning, that kind of thing. But yeah, so the 57 Chevy Bel Air is definitely the car that I really liked. My dad actually had a Bel Air, and by the time he had gotten done with the point where he had to get rid of it, he said it was 5 different colors because of all the stuff. Like he like busted the doghouse on it, and apparently when it was the doghouse, he forgot that he had his door open and put it in reverse, and he slapped the door to the front corner panel. And so he had to replace both of those. And so those were different colors. This is a bad situation for a kid. He's like just trying to keep his car real nice.
It's like the Swatch car.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Swatches. All right. Well, I will say for mine, and I'm going to switch gears here from the Power Wagon, and because I really like switching gears, I prefer an automatic. A manual over an automatic, hands down. And this is a 1965 Shelby Daytona Coupe, and it is to me the hottest car that I've ever seen. I've never driven one. I have been close to them, and I've seen them go flying by me on the road. And again, if money were no object and it was just me, I would definitely go for the 65 Daytona Coupe. It is just speed on wheels. I mean, it's raring to go. And it's even with the kit cars. And that's probably, if I ever did get one, get like a FFR, what's it called, Factory 5 Racing, and apologize to any fans. I can't remember names, but the FFRs are cheap-ish. And you get to pick your kind of engine that you want in it and see what you want to do. But even just the stock is just so fast, and they pulled him off this, I think, to go to the GT40, which was just a huge speed monster as well. But this one comes down to almost no practicality. There's no practical reason for me to want that car. That's just straight up. It takes my breath away when I see it. So
gorgeous.
Yeah, that one is I like that one a lot, man. That is a really pretty car.
She's real nice.
That car reminds me of like sort of like the Shelby
Cobra,
that Shelby style. Yeah,
the Cobra is probably my second favorite. I had a friend, the guy that raced the rabbit with his dad. His dad came pick him up at school in a Cobra. And he's like, "Hey, Daddy, you gotta come to my dad's going to pick me up." I'm like, "I don't want to stand here and watch your dad pick you up." And he's just like, blah, 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 blah. And and it's not Georgia legal at the time, so they had the side mufflers on it, of course, but they weren't muffled at all, and they're spitting fire. And that's the first time in my life that I ever saw something backfire. And I'm like, "Oh, is it gonna? What is it? Is it gonna blow up?" And he's like, "You can't ride in it. It was just first. My dad's not going to let you ride it. Don't even ask. But if you ever did, you can't wear shorts because when you get out, you'll burn your legs on those side pipes. And I went, wow, how do you know that? And he's like, yeah, I burned my legs on the side pipes getting out, but just seeing that thing come up. And that was my favorite for a long time. And then saw the coupe and I went, yeah, I'm much more of a hatchback kind of car person than a convertible. I would rather have that, the slope look of it or what have you. So, but anyway, I'll gush on that one all day. So stop me, Brock. Talk about your car, man.
No, you're fine. Well, before that, I was going to say, like, that reminds me of the fact that the show of the movie Ford versus Ferrari that came out, and I loved watching that, and it was cool how they consulted with the son of I don't know if it was Shelby or it was the other driver. I can't think of his name. But yeah, like they had him as a consultant on the movie set for a lot of it. So, cause it was his story and stuff. That's a great, like I waited till that came actually just on the like streaming to get to watch it. It was so good. It would have been neat to have seen in the movie theater though, cause just the amount of speed and everything in it. But yeah, the car here, this car has got a lot of different storyline to it. Basically this car, which is I think it's a 54 Volkswagen Bug. I like this car because this is the original Bumblebee. And so from the cartoon. And then of course, when they did the movie, they did an homage to it by having him be a bug at the beginning of the movie. And so it was really neat to just kind of see that. But I've always liked this car. It's just super laid back. It's got a sweet sewing machine sound to the engine, which is really neat. And I've got a neighbor down the street that actually owns a couple of them. And this one here specifically is the color that a buddy of mine in high school had. And so I have very fond memories of riding around in this almost exactly the same Bug just in high school and just cruising when most people don't even know what cruising is anymore. So
that's awesome.
But just, we did the full on like American Graffiti style of life when I was a kid, because I lived in a small town and we actually had a cruising like lane or like a cruising section. So you'd go downtown and head uptown and hang out like across from the football field in the mall parking lot. And, the cops would come up and say stuff and then you take off and head back down or whatever and keep rolling and, running through the McDonald's drive-through and all that fun stuff for a night. Those were our Friday and Saturday nights growing up.
See and be seen.
Right. Exactly. Rolling around in, El Caminos, just hanging out in the back of them, that kind of stuff.
Rolling around in my 76 Toyota GT. Yeah. Okay.
There you go. Maybe
it wasn't as cool as I thought it was, but I thought it was cool. So that's okay.
At that time, I owned a 78 Malibu with my dad, so that was fun to drive around too.
Nice, big one.
It had a nice small block engine in it. I liked it a lot.
I remember when I was in high school. I graduated in '91. When I was in high school, the must-have car for all the guys was a mid-'70s Cutlass Supreme.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wanted a Cutlass Supreme, and there were a number of them in the school parking lot.
My brother owned one. It was tan, but yeah, it was my grandmother's car. And, and he'd wrecked his car or whatever. We wrecked a lot of cars in those days. And so he came home with my grandbetty. I said, is that Grandbetty's car? And he looked at me like, don't call it that. That's my car. Look at it. Everybody wants one of these. I'm like, I don't want one of those. You go ahead, man. And he's like, it's a great car. I'm like, no, I don't want it as big. And no, I get my Toyota and we'll race. If there's curves, I win. If there's no curves, he wins. But But yeah, I remember that he had his Cutlass Supreme, and it was just like the coolest thing at school. Everybody wanted to hang out with him, and he was like, "Yeah, I got this thing." I'm like, "No, man, I'm cool. Do your thing. Go cruise somewhere. Go find a mall."
Well, hey, we're up against the wall on time tonight for this, so we're have to cut it short. But Marcus, man, it was fun to get to talk to you about cars. And honestly, I hope that you eventually get the Firebird that you're wanting, man, because it sounds like it would definitely be the car to kind of retire on, and you and the wife get to enjoy some time with. So hopefully down the road, that's something that you get to accomplish as a goal.
I appreciate that. The missus has her heart set on an emerald green Mustang GT convertible, and I think she's going to get that first. She deserves it.
That's an awesome car too, man.
Yeah, it's hard to
definitely.
argue with.
Yeah, that is hard to argue, very much so. I love that color too, the emerald green. You don't see that very often, so that's cool. But cool, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on the show. Like I said, it was a pleasure getting to talk with you. And for anybody that's listening, I know that you're probably wondering if there's a winner for the last episode that we did with Star Wars. And honestly, nobody's answered the question yet. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to the Star Wars episode, go back and listen to it and answer the question. And you have a chance at winning 2 Star Wars action figures that Art Eddie sent to me to give to one lucky winner. So go check that out. But until then,
condition in the package. Yeah, in case there's a collector out there, that means something. So.
Yep, they are.
Brock has not pulled them out and played with them. They're not like, oh, I love you, I hate you. Yeah. No, he's left them in the package.
No, this is not Spaceballs. I knew what you were talking about.
Your helmet, it's so big.
It's so big.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a great place to end on. So y'all have a great night. We'll talk to y'all real soon.
Good night,
Bye now.
Good night.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.